Hey, so let's talk about becoming your most ideal self. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Celeste Rains-Turk. I'm actually the best-selling author of Believe Your Way to Badass, which is a whole interactive guide to becoming your most ideal self and really redefining beliefs and developing self-love. So I'm excited to share with you some of my insight into that. And for those of you who also don't know, I'm a big proponent of journaling prompts, visualization tools, personal development, all of these things, and I like to combine that with my passion and education in psychology. So I'm going to be posing some journaling prompts or things to consider for you today that's going to help you to start aligning with your ideal self. The first thing we have to consider is, how does this ideal version of myself live every single day? And what does this version of myself do in the mornings, the afternoons, the evenings? Because then you can actually create action steps and go, well, if my ideal self is doing this in the mornings, afternoons, and evenings, what could I do from that version of myself now? And begin to bring that version of you into the present moment, okay? So essentially, imagine your ideal self, ask yourself, what are they doing in the morning, afternoon, and evening? And choose a habit from each of those that you can start doing now. That'll help you start aligning closer and closer to that version of you. Another thing I like to ask or, propose is, how does this version of yourself respond to, think about, entertain different things like conversations about their body, thoughts about their body, food, goals? A lot of you know that I help people to improve their relationship with food, their body, and their goals. So that's why I'm emphasizing those things right here. But also, things, how do they think about movement? How does this version of you think about money? How does this version of you think about time, energy? How do they handle their emotions? Or how do they talk about or think about other people? It's important to identify those differences between you and your ideal self, because then you can start to see where you can bridge that gap. Another thing you can ask yourself is, how would the ideal version of myself show up each day? Not just for other people, but for yourself as well. What would that really look and feel like to show up as this next level version of yourself? And what energy would you be bringing to the world and to those around you? When you can identify, how this version of you shows up, what energy they bring, then you can ask yourself what's required to bring that. And how can I start bringing that now? Or maybe what types of mentors or learning tools or developmental tasks do I need to go through in order to be able to do that? Or healing, So when you can identify, and I keep using that word because it's so important to become aware. When you can identify the differences between you and the next level version of yourself, you can actually start to see and visualize a pathway to getting there, because you've become aware of patterns to change, habits to develop, or maybe habits to move through, as well as old thought patterns, old mindsets, and old beliefs that just don't serve you. So right now, this version of you that's living in this current world is like this present version, but you can actually become the next level version of yourself. And sometimes when we take actions that's out of alignment with our ideal self, something happens called incongruency. This is not an empowering or healthy place to be. So the best thing we can do is actually bridge that gap and begin living as the most ideal version of ourselves. And that takes us back to the very first thing I mentioned, which was start with developing a habit, or I should say borrowing a habit from your ideal self for the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. Set an alarm in your phone and make that a priority that you're going to do that every day, so you can actually start living as your most ideal version of yourself now, rather than waiting until some crazy thing happens or you achieve something. Bring it into the present now. The results will take care of themselves. And I mentioned visualization in the beginning, imagine your ideal self, imagine your ideal day, and imagine your ideal lifestyle. Then, once you have spent time visualizing this and really getting comfortable with it and imagining it, take notes of the differences and then set a game plan in place that's going to help you to make those shifts happen now. So you might notice, oh, these are the differences in how I think about myself, or how I think about others, or how I talk about these certain topics, or how I show up in this world. And then you can actually decide, oh, if this is the difference, and then this is how I am now, this is what can change. This is what I can start to focus on. And you can start bringing that into your current reality, rather than it feeling like some distant ideal version of you that will never exist until you achieve XYZ. No, it literally is so important that you see that you can create this change now. You are in control and you can make that shift. It just comes down to commitment, and commitment to acting as your most ideal self. You could even ask yourself, what is the ideal version of myself doing in order to create this result? Or what would this version of myself do? So that way you can start handling situations from that place of the next level version of yourself. It could be as simple as writing down a new habit for different times of the day, or starting your day entirely differently, or even choosing to nourish and think about and move your body, or in terms of like not just your body, but your whole entire life, the way you nourish your thoughts, the way you nourish your beliefs. And what are you choosing to feed your energy into? Making sure that energy is coming from a place of self-love, maybe it's coming from a place of empowerment. Maybe it's coming from a place of, I'm finally going to commit to this and I deserve this and I'm worthy of this and I'm capable of it. It could be you finally addressing negative thoughts. It could mean that you really challenge your old behaviors or your old ways, your old thought patterns. And then you might even start beginning to really, I guess, set new intentions for each day, where you ask yourself, what is the most ideal version of myself needing right now? Or what was required of me to become that ideal version of myself if I were to future pace this? You can set new commitments for yourself, set boundaries with yourself. A lot of people struggle with boundaries in general, but it starts with setting boundaries with yourself. So if you make a commitment to yourself, you have to become aware of what boundaries you may cross and self-sabotage so you can draw the line and make sure that you are absolutely acting as the best version of yourself. This way, this ideal self no longer seems so far away, but instead it comes into the present moment. It becomes part of your reality. It creates that congruency and it creates that empowerment, that health, that drive, that determination, that belief that you are capable, worthy, and deserving of all that you desire. Then, when you have that congruency, your habits, your action steps, your decisions are all going to start aligning with this most ideal version of yourself because you've taken the opportunity to change your neural pathways, to change the thought patterns, to change the way that you were in the past that is keeping you stuck. That's not where you want to be. So one day when you've realized how far you've come and how congruent you're being, as in you are acting as the version of you that you want to be, and there's not a justification or negative belief patterns keeping you from that, you're going to wake up and realize, wow, like I am living the life I always wanted. I did that. And you'll prove to yourself that it is possible. And not only is it possible, but it is ever evolving. So then every time you step into a new version of yourself, there's going to be another one and another one. But what really creates that fulfilling life, that freeing life, that empowering life is when you act in alignment with this version of yourself. So when you are seeking another reality or another level, it's coming from a positive place of believing in your ability to do that, as well as the desire to actually get there. And this is especially true if you are a goal-oriented person, a driven person, someone who is always committed to personal growth, development, someone who likes to achieve goals, someone who likes to set new goals, challenge themselves, very ambitious, you're going to love this because it's actually going to be even more fuel for your already raging fire and hunger for that type of life. If you struggle with that, but you feel like you're an ambitious person, but you're just struggling to bridge the gap, I hope you take all these action steps and all these journal prompts I've given you today, or even just thought processes to consider today, and apply them to your life so that you can look at where you are now, see the things you're doing or the things you have or the things that you've done that are not aligned with your ideal self and begin to change them. I would also encourage you to look at what you have and what you're doing and what you've accomplished now that you once dreamt of, because this is great proof that you can prove yourself wrong or that you can achieve what you want to achieve, which is going to increase your self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to achieve your goals or accomplish things or do things, execute, etc. And you can put that out on paper and reflect on it when you need that boost. Okay, so when you need that boost in efficacy, you can remind yourself of all the ways you've proven yourself wrong in the past, or all the ways that you've overcome challenges, or all the ways you've created an ideal version of yourself now that in the past you dreamt of. So I hope that that's helpful for you. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Comment below with what your new process is going to be. What are the habits you're going to do in the morning, afternoon, and evening? Or what did you realize about your ideal self? Or what is that gap you need to bridge in order to get there? Because you are closer to the next level version of yourself than you think, but only the people who dedicate only the people who dedicate themselves to becoming the next level version of themselves, to the growth, the challenges, the changes that are required to get there, are going to experience those shifts, okay? So I hope this was helpful for you. Definitely comment below with what you're committed to, and share this with a friend if you found it helpful, and make sure you stay tuned because there's going to be a lot more videos coming, and I can't wait to share them all with you because I want you guys to build more than just a body, and of course to have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're watching this video and hopefully implementing it. Just make it awesome.